All right, let's get started. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Joanne Kaufman, Executive Director of the Northeast Minneapolis Chamber. As you enter the room this morning, you'll notice that your audio and visual have been disabled. Please use the Q&A function on your toolbar for any questions you have. And if you'd like to communicate with any of our panelists this morning, you can use the chat function. Before we get started, I would like to thank our sponsors, without whom this event would not be possible. Thank you to CenterPoint Energy, Wells Fargo Bank, Minnesota, and Xcel Energy. I'm very excited about this event this morning. I'm so inspired by the breadth of work that's being done by our nonprofits in Northeast and throughout our community. As I get to know these amazing organizations, I've also been really moved by the relationships that they have with our for-profit partners in Northeast. And that's actually what really prompted the conversation this morning. It was a conversation I had with Michael Allen about his relationship with Northeast Bank and learning about Northeast Bank's relationship with some of our other nonprofits. And so I thought, let's have a conversation about what those relationships look like and what our for-profit businesses in Northeast can do to help support our nonprofits. And some of our nonprofits this morning, like the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, are larger, and some of them are smaller, but they all have a tremendous impact on our community. So I'd like to introduce to you this morning our panelists, and then I'll allow each of them the opportunity to introduce themselves, talk about their organization briefly and their role, and then we'll get into the conversation. Joining us this morning, we have Michael Allen, the founder and executive director of My Very Own Bed. And as I mentioned earlier, it was a conversation I had with Michael that prompted this event today. We also are joined by Brianna Durfee, the director of human resources with Our Family Wizard. Joining us also, we have Christine Martin, president of Eastside Neighborhood Services, Lisa Myrie, the campaign development director for Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and Eva Rasmussen, the senior vice president for strategy and e-banking for Northeast Bank. And I'm going to let you, Michael, start first and just tell us briefly about yourself and your organization and your role.
Sure. Thanks, Joanne. My name is Michael Allen. I am the founder and executive director of My Very Own Bed. My Very Own Bed is a local Northeast nonprofit. Those of you who are not familiar, My Very Own Bed provides all new beds and bedding, which we call dream kits, to kids here in the Twin Cities. These are kids otherwise sleeping on the floor, sharing a bed with a sibling or a parent. But the biggest thing we see is kids sleeping on an air mattress. Why do we do this work? We do this work simply because of the power of sleep. We all need a good night's sleep, and kids even more so. So that's who we are, and I really appreciate you having me today.
Terrific. Thank you, Michael. Brianna, tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization.
Good morning. I'm Brianna Durfee. I oversee our human resources at Our Family Wizard. Our Family Wizard is a co-parenting application for separated parents, separated families, trying to make life a little bit easier when going through a divorce or separation. So this app is used for communication, calendaring, payments, and we are also located in Northeast, and we've been around for 20 years now. So excited to be here and excited for our partnerships that we have. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And Christine, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization.
After 2 years, you think I would know how to press mute, put the mute button on. So anyway, good morning again. Christine Martin, president of Eastside Neighborhood Services. Thank you, Joanne, for inviting us to be part of this exciting opportunity to really show the marriage and the interagency value of nonprofits and for-profits, and how when we work together, we actually do better. Eastside Neighborhood Services has been in the community of Northeast for over 107 years. Its original purpose then and continued purpose now is to help people develop roots and ownership in the communities where they want to live. Today, we focus on education and the successful pathways for youth to find success in their education, developing agency and autonomy. We also focus on employment. Our approach to employment is asset-based employment and the discovery of people's skills and desires and competencies so that they can continue on a pathway of successful employment and being able to be self-sustaining. We stabilize the lives of older adults in communities so they can live vitally, that they have their social engagement and physical engagement needs attended to so they can live where they want to. And finally, we provide different strategies in an eclectic model to mental health. Our focus being on helping people identify the barriers to being able to manage life's situations, conditions, and relationships. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Christine. Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lisa Myrio with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We're the Upper Plains region. We cover Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wisconsin. We've got 3 pillars with LLS that we really funnel into: patient support, research, and advocacy. These 3 areas are all fueled by our main core campaigns like Light the Night and Students of the Year and Man and Woman of the Year and Big Climb. It's a great organization. The money that we raise, we're putting right towards research. So over the last 70 years, we've put over $1 billion towards research, and it's towards everything from blood cancer type treatments to lung cancer, prostate cancer, breast cancer, along with multiple sclerosis and quite a few other diseases too.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And Eva, tell us a little bit about you and your role at Northeast Bank.
Good morning. Thanks for including me, Joanne. My name is Eva Rasmussen, and I'm the SVP of Strategy at Northeast Bank. Northeast Bank is a locally owned community bank. We're headquartered here in Northeast Minneapolis, and we also have offices in New Brighton and Coon Rapids. We serve all of Hennepin, Anoka, and Ramsey counties. We have a full line of business, nonprofit, and consumer offerings, and we're excited that next year will be our 75th anniversary. So our mission here at Northeast Bank is building strong communities, one relationship at a time. And that really is kind of the heart of who we are and what community banks are. With community banks, right, we take local deposits, we lend money out locally, we create jobs, and we can also do a lot in the community. And that's really meaningful, I think, to every single person that's a part of a Northeast Bank organization. It's a big part of why I think our employees and board of directors and everyone chooses to be a part of the organization. We really believe that, we, like Paul Wellstone said, we all do better when we all do better. And people love that it's part of expectation of their job and part of being at the bank to not just serve people's financial needs, but also be out there in the community, be engaged, be working with different nonprofits and helping make an impact.
Terrific. Thank you. Let's go ahead and get the conversation started. And I'm going to start with something, Eva, that you just said that I'm fascinated by, that it's an expectation of their job to be out in the community. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? How does that work?
Sure. So right, as a community bank, it's important that we be a part of the community, and you do that by knowing people in the community. So that's kind of having boots on the ground. So we provide many volunteer opportunities for our staff. So we try to give them a broad range based on their interests and comfort, and we pay them kind of for the time that they volunteer as well. So we think it's really just important of kind of fulfilling who we are to have people out in the community, but it's also, I think, part of what makes people select to come to and stay at Northeast Bank, that they have that kind of family and community tie. So I think it's great, and we can do a broad range of opportunity. So we can be engaged we support many organizations, financially on a regular basis, but we also show up, right? So it might be that we help staff events for some nonprofits, right? And some of our employees, right, really, they're more extroverted, they enjoy that. That's a lot of fun, that on the ground engagement. We have other people who help serve on boards of nonprofits, or we have different nonprofits we can work with. Maybe they're doing mailings, or we can do a, donation drive for them and help kind of deliver things like that. So we try to give them a broad range of doing that. But I think we all know when we engage with others, right, when we give back, that gives us so much too. So I think it's just a real sense of value and additional purpose people get.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Michael, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, it was our conversation that kind of inspired this event this morning, and talking about the relationship that you have with Northeast Bank. And I know that Northeast Bank has that with some of our other nonprofits here this morning. Talk to us about that relationship, how it formed. As Eva just mentioned, they do volunteering. I know that either you or Mary Schreiber, one of our members who's with us this morning, had mentioned that they had helped paint your new space. Which talk to us all a little bit about that relationship.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a great relationship. Northeast is just right across the street from us, the bank. And we made a decision to go over to the bank a couple of years ago, just, based on one of our core values is relationships first. Without those relationships in our community, whether it's our funders, our volunteers, our vendors, My Very Own Bed simply wouldn't be able to exist. I have to say the relationship with the bank is, to me, it's almost personal, because I've gotten to know some of the employees on a personal level, whether that's just going in there. But Northeast Bank, some of the different opportunities that a corporation or a business, I should say, like Northeast Bank, they've helped us deliver beds. They've, as you mentioned, helped us paint our new space, doing donation drives. They've introduced us to other corporate businesses. They've introduced us to the Minnesota Business Association around bankers. So it's been just a special relationship for us, and it starts with the relationship, right? As a nonprofit, we don't chase the funding. They support us, but the value in all of that is community. And the way we look at it is, how can we support each other, right? Again, being a core value of ours being relationships first. So it's not just all about the funding. I'll end with an example of an employee at Northeast Bank. I'm in there almost daily doing deposits, and I've gotten to know Ted very well, almost on a personal level. I consider him a friend. Where we talk music, we talk travel. I've shed a tear standing in the bank talking to Ted about how we both lost our fathers. So it goes beyond just that they're our bank, right? They're our community partner and they're our neighbor, and we're just proud to call them both our neighbor and our partner.
Terrific, thank you. Christine, I know that you have a partnership with Northeast as well as our Family Wizard. Talk to us a little bit about some of your relationships and what those mean to your success at Eastside Neighborhood Services.
Thank you, Joanne, for the question. And thank you, Michael, for your response. It just gave me such a warm feeling about the importance of relationship. I would agree with Michael that relationships and the fundamental value of giving and growing together is part of the relationships that we seek in our for-profit partners. We have probably a similar story as Michael does with Northeast Bank. I don't have the tears, the tears in the lobby with Ted, but I have had numerous conversations with their employees. Everybody greets me when I walk in there, and Eastside Neighborhood Services is a valued partner to the bank. I will also add that Northeast Bank has been on our board. They've had a member on our board for over 30 years, but the relationship goes back 50 years. And the comment that Michael made about the value of volunteerism that Northeast Bank has and puts upon its employees shows up in so many things that the employees at Northeast Bank have done for our organization, from helping to clean up the daycare to being guides and mentors at the events. And they're so valuable to us. We named a big conference room after Northeast Bank. It's a big label. It's the only conference room in the building that has a label now. And we had a very nice meeting with the president, Mr. Beck, when we did that event. So extremely valuable. Our newer partner is our Family Wizard, and that partnership started. And of course, those of you in Northeast know this is part of relationship building. My advancement director was at a bar and met the president of our Family Wizard. I think it was down the street from Eastside. Anyway, they got to talking, and within a couple of years, the president joined our board and has been an amazing contributor to helping us think through technology and startups, et cetera. But more recently, with Brianna's engagement, our Family Wizard employees have volunteered at a recent event that we did, and not just show up to volunteer, got their hands dirty, moved boxes and chairs and everything like that. And what I heard from the president back 3 years ago was, if we're going to join into this relationship with you as a business, we're going to get out of it as much as we can and as much as we give. So we want to grow as people. We want to feel that our contribution to Eastside Neighborhood Services is a value add for Northeast. It's a value add for your agency, but it's also a value add for our employees because they become better people, right? They become contributors to this community, and we can do it in lots of different ways. And I would say I'm really thrilled for the future of our Family Wizard in Eastside, and maybe we'll name a conference room after our Family Wizard. Thanks for the question, Joanne.
Thank you, Christine. You know, you said something very interesting about the president of our Family Wizard talking about how they want to get as much out of it as you do as the nonprofit. And I think that can be taken on first blush, it could be taken as kind of a, but as you explained it further, it does make absolute perfect sense, right? It does, it does make us all better people when we are involved and we give beyond money. And while the money is certainly important, I think sometimes probably the money follows after we become more aware of some of our nonprofit community members. Lisa, talk to us about that, about some of the other ways that your corporate partners help outside of the financial piece, because we'll certainly get into that. But you're a larger organization than some of the ones here. And so I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, we've got some amazing partnerships in Northeast Minneapolis and all throughout the area. But, like right off the top of my mind, like we've got people that donate in all kinds of different ways. We've got a local moving company that helps us with all of our events and getting our gear from the office to the event site, which is huge. And it goes all the way up to, we've got printers, local printers in Northeast that when we're in person and we have our events, they're printing everything for us free of charge. And it goes all the way up to, companies sending in volunteers to help with mailings and being at the events. And it can, from small to big size. We've got a company that's located here in town and they're on Oprah's list of favorite things, and they're coming in and doing all kinds of stuff. So we really depend on our partners. They're awesome in every way, shape, and form that they come in, and the different areas that they help us in is, just even from, we've got, quite a few people that even just serve on our committees and help us with our events. And a few of them are on this morning, and it's nice to see those people pop in today. But, relationships are where it's at. And I've always been a firm believer in the chamber and, getting involved, and you get such a good opportunity to meet so many more people. And even just, being a part of the panel today, I've got some new buddies here now on the panel. So, you just never know who you're going to meet and where your new relationships come from.
Terrific. Thank you. And I agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said. Brianna, we've heard about how the partnership with you and Eastside Neighborhood Services formed. Tell us, are there other nonprofits in Northeast or not, or elsewhere that you are also involved with, or is it a lot Eastside Neighborhood Services? And talk to us a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah. So we actually just formed this culture team the last year after COVID happened and broke into different pillars on different things that we want to focus on and what culture means to us. And one was community involvement. And when you bring that up and you have 90 employees saying, what about this opportunity? What about this organization? You come to realize, even just right here in this room, there's a lot of different organizations that you can help, and everybody has an idea and everybody has a connection. So we took a step back, and our mission is to help families living separately thrive. So really wanted to make sure that we were working with an organization that had a similar mission and that was in our community and local to us. We're headquartered here in Minneapolis as well. So we really are putting a lot of focus just on Eastside Neighborhood Services. COVID has put some kinks in that and some of our volunteer opportunities. But that was really important to our team. So we went over probably 6 months ago and met with Mary. She showed us around, and it was a quick thumbs up from everybody. Like, this is, yes, everything that they do speaks to our mission, speak to our values of families first, and across the board who they affect. So we're all in on East Side Neighborhood Services. Of course, happy to help others, but we really wanted to make sure that we're making as big of impact as we could in our neighborhood.
Thank you. And you bring up an interesting point, is that, if an organization, if a for-profit organization like your own has a core values, that it's important to align those with a nonprofit that has similar, same core values. Eva, I know that at Northeast Bank, you are wider reaching, and I completely understand that. What are some of the other ways that your corporate partners do help beyond, we've got the volunteer hours, and talk to me, each of you, if you don't mind, and Michael, I'll start with you, beyond that, how they are helping. And if you've got someone that's, that you didn't realize that your values aligned. Up, you're muted. Michael, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
No.
Outside of our what I'll call as our regular volunteer opportunities of helping us deliver beds, we have corporate partners involved in our different committees, on our board of directors. There's just a variety of different ways that we have our corporate partners just helping us further the mission of My Very Own Bed. No, you're on mute.
Of course I am. Lisa, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Lisa, what about you? What are some other ways that your corporate partners are helping?
Yeah, our corporate partners, they're helping every way from, getting involved and volunteering on site at different events up to, getting matching gift programs up and running, for their employees when they're making donations. They help, sit on committees that we've got going on. They get involved in advocacy and helping with that community outreach too piece of it. Because at LLS, we're like one of those little best kept secrets. We don't do a lot of marketing and promoting because unfortunately with the blood cancers, it's like you're either going to get it or you're not going to get it. So we sink our money into the research side of things. Mm-hmm. So it's super important for us to have volunteers, and it's amazing in the different capacities that they help us. We've got volunteers that, they come in once or twice a year, and then we've got volunteers that we've got groups from companies coming into the office, that are there, once a month working on things for us. So it's been relationships and lots of different unique ways for people to partner outside of the giving monetary donation.
Mm-hmm. And Christine, talk to us a little bit about just that, the monetary donations, are the, what portion, I'm not looking for any secrets here or anything, but, what portion of the budget are those individual donations that might come from someone because they volunteered at Eastside Neighborhood Services, maybe at our Family Wizard, they learned about you and put some volunteer time in. I mean, we all, as we learn more about a nonprofit, we tend to give more money to that nonprofit if we've got it in our budget, right? So what part of your budget is, how dependent are you on that specific part of your, donations?
That's a good question, and it's actually a complex question. So it starts with fundraising. Successful fundraising starts with a relationship between the organization and the donor. So what is it that the nonprofit does that connects with the heart and the values and the vision for quality life that corporate donors or corporations and volunteers connect with? So you start with that fundamental, what is it that I connect with? And you do that through relationships. About 90% of a nonprofit's budget, fundraising budget, revenue budget is generally raised through individual donations. Now, when I say generally, I mean that's optimally what you drive for, because that's where the more general unrestricted dollars come from. that doesn't always happen, right? It doesn't always happen based on what your mission is or where you are or who your corporate partners are. So you strive to develop those individual donations and that individual giving, starting with relationship. And a relationship can start through volunteerism. It can start through a meeting at lunch at the chamber or breakfast at the chamber. It can start in lots of different ways. And then you try to find where is that mutual understanding between the individual and the organization. What's the understanding, and what is the value add of what our purpose is to that particular individual. And so with how I apply that to whether it's Our Family Wizard or it's Northeast Bank is we spend time with the individual volunteers when they're working on a project, whether they're painting walls or coming to our event with GB Layton a couple of Fridays ago when it was still warm outside. I personally spend time with every volunteer, getting to know them. What's your history with the bank? What's your history with Eastside? What's your history with Northeast Minneapolis? And through that development of that relationship, I think that volunteers feel like they're connecting to the mission of the organization. They're not just painting a wall, they're actually connecting to the mission of I keep saying painting a wall because that's what Northeast Bank did. A big project.
They're big painters at Northeast Bank.
But really helping people who are in corporate, who are volunteering in the nonprofit, to feel like that the contribution is a major value add and that they are valued. And so you begin to build that relationship, and every time people come, it gets reinforced and celebrated, and you invite them more. And soon, as in the case of Our Family Wizard in Northeast Bank, volunteers are coming as participants at an event. They're not coming as their volunteer gig anymore. They're coming because they like the agency. And then you build on that with a gift opportunity or a give to the max opportunity. So there's this strategy in fundraising that really starts with an individual relationship, trying to get the donor to be connected to the mission of the organization. So I can't tell you what percentage of my budget is based on these kinds of transactions, but what I can tell you is a very important aspect of fundraising.
Terrific, thank you. You mentioned, Christine, give to the max, and we also all know that we're in a pandemic, obviously, and every time we think we're coming out, we kind of go back in. And before everyone else was on, as we were just talking this morning amongst ourselves, we were talking about Give to the Max Day and kind of retention of donors and the pandemic and all of those things. If you don't mind kind of going around each of you, and I want to hear from Brianna, and you, Eva, as well, about how the pandemic has impacted your donations or your giving, and what that has meant for you, and how you do retain. I know that there's been conversations amongst us as well as some of the nonprofits that I'm involved in, that last year was actually a good year because of the pandemic. And so if you could each kind of give us a brief summary, if you will. And Michael, I'll let you start.
Yeah, so we've seen an increase both in, I would say, our bed requests or services. Beginning when COVID came, we saw a huge increase in our requests. There's many different factors involved with that. I'll say the same thing on the giving side. As I mentioned prior to this, our donors through COVID really stepped up. They really helped us meet that need on that increase that we saw. So we've continued to see this year that momentum carry over into this year from last year, and very fortunate that our donors have stepped up, and it gave us an opportunity to just impact more kids in the community.
Terrific, thank you very much. Brianna, talk to us about your experience on the other side. What has your involvement, because we maybe can't volunteer as much as you might like to, how that has been impacted by the pandemic.
Yeah, I would say we actually didn't really have a budget set aside for sponsorships or anything like that. But I think with the pandemic, it helped a little bit. We had less people traveling, less people hosting meetings. So there happened to be a little bit more fluff and budget there. So it was raising our hand and making sure, hey, can we set some of this aside for this organization or that organization? So I think it's actually helped us now be able to solidify a budget for that next year and ask for a little bit more so that we're ready to go going forward. So it's just opened up doors that maybe we were spending in other areas. So excited about that.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. As I mentioned earlier, I think as we all were spending less money, during the pandemic, we couldn't go anywhere. We did have more disposable income to donate to the causes that we feel strongly about. And so it's interesting hearing about that from the corporate side. Eva, what about you guys? How's that? What have you seen?
So I mean, definitely, right. I think everything was impacted, right, in the past years with the pandemic and also the civil unrest and everything else happening in the area. So it definitely changed, how we could engage. So I think, initially as COVID happened and lockdowns started, we got some additional requests from some of our nonprofit partners. I think we evaluated those and we gave more in some of those instances where we could to help support them through that. A lot of our engagement, we do have a number of folks who serve on the boards of nonprofits or who work on committees. So I think all that work continued through the pandemic. It was just via Zoom maybe instead of in person, but I think a lot of good work had to be done with those partners, figuring out how are they going to pivot, how are they going to do events differently or things like that through that. So I think a lot of that continued. I think people leaned into that, maybe sometimes did more because there were new challenges to figure out. But a lot of the kind of boots on the ground volunteering, we still were able to do some of that, but we had to definitely dial it back because we were really focused, of course, on the safety of our employees. So we had to, get creative, right? So we already did have a few partners we would do some mailings and things like that for that we could work on. So I think we increased that. We did that for a few new organizations. Some places maybe we would have gone to, go and volunteer. We worked on let's do a drive and collect things for them instead. So we could still engage and still help support, but just in a way that we felt safe. Also around kind of the civil unrest and things like that, we did do, the bank did a grant program where folks were impacted by that, to get additional money out there to help with that as well.
Terrific, thank you. Christine, Eva brought up a good point about, that because of the pandemic and wanting to keep their employees safe, not being able to, to provide as many volunteer hours. Your organization particularly is very much, you have a daycare, you have an adult care. Talk about how volunteerism was impacted by the pandemic and how you kept both your volunteers safe as well as the people that you serve and that you provide such valuable services to.
Continues to be good questions here. I think Eva touched on several of the things that I would have said as well. In terms of how in-person volunteering was challenged and how individuals could be involved in the organization. So perhaps there was an effort to give to the organization, maybe donations increased in lieu of the volunteer hours. I think our in-person volunteerism really kicked up when we could start doing things outside. So then we saw more hours and we saw more people. Thrivent was over at our building the other day, installing little mushrooms outside of the big lizard that is in our backyard. We have this really big public sculpture of a lizard. And so they put in these little cute mushrooms in the ground so that little kids could sit on them, or parents could sit on them, or passerbys who are tired of biking on the bike trail could sit down. So those kinds of things you began to see. Brianna's organization, Our Family Wizard, like I said, at the GB Layton concert, they were there, they were volunteering, they were assisting people, they were cleaning garbage cans, or whatever to keep the customers and participants happy and engaged. So I think the other thing that I would say that I didn't hear, well, maybe I did hear this from Eva, but I'll just reinforce it. Many of our partners have given me time by just talking to me through Zoom or a phone call about a financial strategy or a financial question, or maybe some outreach, or maybe thinking about an invitation to a larger arena of that particular company's peers. So I've had a lot of time with the AVAs and the Thrivent leaders, and not so much Brianna, but I think Brianna and Mary have spent a lot of time talking. So I think organizations have lent their intellectual expertise and their network expertise in a different way. The final thing I would say is we have this mobile food shelf over in Minneapolis by the Target Field. And where we have a food distribution, food comes in, it gets packaged, and it goes out to our mobile food shelves. But because of COVID, we really needed volunteers to help pack boxes. And so we were getting volunteers from all over the place. And one of those volunteers worked at US Bank. Now we have a US Bank board member as a result. We have a donor, we have a board member, and we now have a relationship with US Bank that wouldn't have existed had we not had the modified volunteer opportunity.
You know, that's terrific. And I would love to hear, Lisa, I know that you had mentioned so many of the opportunities. You've got the printers that print things for free and those kinds of relationships. What are some, as you've not been able to do events, how have some of those, have you had some new experiences like Christine just mentioned? Because that's terrific that now you've got a board member and a donor, and we've kind of shifted some of that, and maybe shifted some of the awareness, right? Because people probably know Eastside Neighborhood Services for everything you do, but maybe didn't know about the food shelf, and now you've expanded that awareness. Lisa, what has been your experience with that?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year and a half, 2 years here. I won't lie. We haven't been able to have events in person. So we haven't had our volunteers, like boots on the ground doing things for us. But one thing I've really noticed over the last, year and a half is that our involvement from the corporate side on committees is really picked up. And it's, learning how to operate on Zoom has been like a weird blessing in disguise. Our committee meetings are well attended. There's good involvement from the committee members, lots of awesome discussions and things that come out of it. And it feels like in our new Zoom world that it's a little easier for people to attend those meetings and get other people from other companies around town involved, because you're not taking the time, your drive time and missing family time and dinner and things like that. You can hop on Zoom and attend a committee, which is, oddly enough, it's been a blessing in disguise over the last year and a half. I'll be happy when we can all go back to in person, like today, having this event. It'd be great to see people in person, yes. But we figured it out, and here we are all on Zoom.
Right. And I do think we'll see some of that will stay with us, right? Because I think the way we work has changed fundamentally forever. I don't think we'll ever go back to where we were at in the before times. And there are some positives that have come out of that. Is there something, whether it's in your relationships, and I want to hear from everybody on this one, that you either didn't know you needed and have gained through the pandemic, or that the pandemic has pointed out to you that you wish you had? And Michael, I'll put you on the spot and start early. So is there something that, like I said, you gained through the pandemic that you didn't know you needed, and that's been a bonus, or something that you have learned that you wish you had, as far as, a relationship or an area of need that you didn't realize you had?
Sure. Yeah, well, a couple of things I'll touch. We were greatly impacted by COVID. We highly depend on volunteers. Volunteers come with us on all of our deliveries, so they deliver all of our beds. For about a year, we ceased those operations, bringing volunteers into the homes with us. And so it was a big impact for us. It certainly changed the way we operate. And as an organization, we decided to continue safely to deliver these beds without going into the homes. The other, I guess, I don't know if this relates, but the other positive big change that came out of COVID for us is we now provide a higher quality bed. Our bed manufacturer in what I'll call the beginning of COVID shut down for 8 weeks.
Michael, we're having a little bit of difficulty hearing you.
How about now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
All right, I'll back up a little. I was just saying some of the positive, one big positive thing that came out of COVID that made us kind of realize is our vendor for a very long time of our beds during the beginning of COVID entirely shut down. As an organization, we decided we were going to continue our operations and continue doing it safely. That forced us to go find another bed vendor. We now provide a higher quality bed. So it's really, it's both negatively and positively impacted us. You know, lastly, I'll say what's really greatly impacted us because of the pandemic is the fact of going into these homes. You know, going into someone's home is a personal thing. It's also a privilege. And, you know, we certainly miss the leg hugs, the high fives from all those kids. We're still making an impact, but that's something as an organization that we truly miss, is just interacting with those kids. So a positive thing, as I mentioned, was we now provide a better quality bed.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Michael. Brianna, you're coming at obviously from a different side, but what have you learned through, you know, as an organization through the pandemic?
Yeah, I think we've grown probably 3 times over the pandemic and hired majority of our employees remotely. So I think we took advantage, or we didn't realize how much being in the office and being together and building that culture was there. And now having to take a step back and purposefully create conversations and interactions, which led us to creating this culture team and figuring out what people were really interested in and focused on. And a lot of people are at an organization because of the culture, because of the mission. So how do we make that come to life? And I'll take the easy way out on this one. It created our partnership with Eastside Neighborhood Services, and just really being able to, we like to say, talk the talk and walk the walk towards our mission. So it introduced us to a great organization, which I know we're just getting started with. So some negatives and positives, but led us to creating new relationships that push towards our mission.
Terrific. I got goosebumps when you said that. Christine, talk to us a little bit about your experience. Has there been something that you realized that you received and didn't know you needed, or something that you now realize you do need and don't have? Talk to us about that.
I think how I can best explain it is it's 2 sides of a coin, and that is technology. So the one side of the coin with technology is that for clients, for students, for participants, i.e. the older adults, technology has been a blessing for them. If transportation was a barrier, if clothing was a barrier, if something else was a barrier, kids wouldn't come to school. Participants in our domestic violence therapy group wouldn't come to a meeting, right, if they didn't have the money to pay their copay or whatever. So technology has been a boost for clients and participants who were challenged by transportation and some of the things that many of us just take for granted. So we've had more students graduate from high school. We've had better grades, you know, better credit completion, more men completing the program. And our Facebook exercise class for older adults is just going through the roof. Actually, there are participants from California to New Jersey who hop on our Facebook exercise class. So awesome. That's all pretty, that's the good side of the technology coin. The other side of the technology coin, and I say this because I've been in human services for 33 years in lots of different ways. And part of what makes us better as practitioners is being in a milieu with other practitioners, right? That human contact, that human conversation, maybe a little bit what Brianna was talking about, that what does the culture look like, that where people can be their best in the role that they have. And our culture, this shifting to a hybrid culture, has been difficult for many, maybe not for everyone, but it has certainly impacted the human services culture by having to go to technology. So I guess I'd like to say it both ways. challenges and opportunities.
Yeah, terrific. Lisa, talk to us a little bit about, what you've, a little bit about what you've learned, I guess is really the best way to say.
Yeah, one thing I've really learned over the last year and a half is just how important it is to have relationships. I've been so involved in the chamber over the years that I thank my lucky stars for the people that I have met and the folks that we do business with, and just having that group of people, and it's you miss out on being able to be in person and attend networking events and like expand your own network. And so, having those people is really important. And the one thing that's been kind of interesting and neat over the last year and a half is how willing our current volunteers have been to open up their own contact list and introduce us to some new people. And without those relationships, it would be really hard for us to grow and move forward. So, things that we've learned over the last year and a half, those relationships are really important.
Terrific. Thank you. And Eva, talk to us a little bit about what you've learned and what you need or what you're lacking or.
Yeah, so I think a lot of what we learned was, flexibility, right? And sort of flexing that flexibility muscle. I think as a bank, obviously we're a relatively conservative organization, right? So we're always like, no, we all have to be here to do everything, right? And there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of connection, there's strong culture. But with COVID, we all had to learn to pivot, right? We had to figure out how to work remotely, right? We had to take advantage of new technology we weren't necessarily familiar with. So figuring out how to do that securely, how to stay connected. So it was definitely uncomfortable, like everyone experienced, but I think it was really positive, right? And some of that we've been able to keep of understanding, well, where can we still, offer some flexibility for different people in different positions. But again, as you have people remote or doing things differently, it's really important, like Brianna said, to focus on that culture, right? And Christine mentioned that, I think, too, right? So things are different when you're not all together. So how can you do other things to try and, keep that culture strong, keep people connected? Again, I think like other people said, you learn the importance of relationships and connections. We're in a relationship business. So it's, be it with business customers, nonprofit customers, partners, it was making sure we could still be there and connect. And right, so now we can leverage Zoom to do that or FaceTime to do that, to, know that you're still there for them. I think that was, just really important.
Perfect. As we get ready to wrap up this morning, I encourage anyone who's attending this morning who has questions of any of our panelists, please use the Q&A function. But as we wrap up, I'm wondering, I'm going to go back around, and I wonder if you can all give us some insight as to, for our nonprofits, as to how businesses can get involved with you, and how you can create those partnerships or what they can do with a nonprofit that they might be interested in partnering with. And then for the two for-profits here, talk a little bit about what you might be, if you were looking to expand, what might be important to you. So Michael, I'll start with you.
So some other ways that corporations, businesses can get involved with My Very Own Bed is our most popular opportunity is coming on a bed delivery with us. Super meaningful experience, right? You get to see the joy, you get to see the pride that a bed brings to kids. So that's most of that we deliver on Fridays and Saturdays. And as I said, that's one of our more popular volunteer opportunities. Our goal is to provide close to 1,500 beds next year for kids in the Twin Cities. So we are always in need of sheets, blankets, pillows, those dream kit items. So we welcome any corporations to do donation drives for us. So those are just two good examples of getting involved in our work.
Terrific. Thank you, Michael. And Brianna, you're next.
Yeah, I think volunteer sponsorship opportunities, again, too. So what I said in the beginning is we're really focused on organizations that share a similar mission. So helping families, putting families first, and just trying to help a family no matter where they're at. Along the journey is really important to us, and along with being in our community, we want to make a big impact.
Thank you. Christine, I'll turn to you next.
Yeah, I think I'll start with, there is a staff in our organization, Mary Anstead. You can find her on the website, but she is the community relations coordinator. She is the clearinghouse for all things that the organization, all volunteer opportunities that the organization has to offer, at various times through the year. So contacting Mary Anstitt would be a vital next step. And I think the second thing is, and I don't mean to be flippant when I say this, but if a nonprofit calls you as a corporation and says, would you be interested in learning a little bit more about our organization and potentially becoming a sponsor of an event that we're doing or a fundraising drive that we're doing? Sponsorships are really, really important to us. We like to promote you on any of our materials and our website. We like to brag about you and our relationships. So say yes if Mary calls you to potentially move forward in a sponsorship trajectory. But your support in simple things like sponsorships all the way to volunteerism is extremely important to nonprofits. And I see Mary put in the chat, say yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. And I will plug Mary as well. And I will include Mary's contact information in our follow-up information this morning. But it is because of Mary that Brianna is here, because as I was asking each of you for partnership ideas, she brought Brianna to the conversation. So Mary is amazing, as we all know, who have the good fortune to know her. So I will include her contact information as well as everybody else's. So, Lisa, tell us a little bit about how, if corporations, businesses want to get involved, how they can.
Yeah, we always need volunteers, participants at our events that we've got coming up. It's always nice to see people at those. And I just really encourage, the corporate businesses out there to, find your nonprofit partners and you think outside the box a little bit. It doesn't always have to be, like a large dollar donation that you're giving. We all need help with volunteers. There's so many different ways to support the nonprofits that, it makes our community stronger when we all get to work together.
Terrific. Thank you. And Eva, last but certainly not least.
Great. I think moving forward, right, we're excited to be able to do more in person again, right? So I think we want to keep doing the things that we had to do as we shifted during the pandemic, and we're a little more creative, but we are really excited to be back out in the community. Hopefully, right, these COVID numbers get back in check, because it is that in-person connection at a lot of these events is so meaningful with the nonprofit, with other supporters, with other people in the community. So I think we're excited to be able to get back to doing that, making sure we're doing it in a safe way as well. I think that we're always looking to grow our impact in the community, but we have to be smart about it. You can't work with every nonprofit, right? So I think we try to create deep partnerships. I think it's really important that there be trust and continuity and consistency. So I think that's important to us. So when we engage, we like to keep working, and keep building that relationship and keep showing up, because I think that's important for a partner to know that you're going to show up for them. And I think when we're looking at partners, we're looking at what are they doing in the community, right? If they're helping strengthen the community, helping create opportunities, helping increase opportunities for other people, those are good partners for us. And so we're looking to make those different kind of connections and find the different ways that we can work with them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for the conversation today. I hope that everybody leaves as inspired and informed as I feel I am. Please watch your mailbox for a link to the video from this morning, as well as follow-up information. I'll have contact information for everybody on our panel, as well as for Mary Anstitt. They do have some great events coming up. My Very Own Bed has their Beds and Bluegrass event coming up on December 4th from 3 to 7 p.m. at the Ukrainian Center. So I'll include information on that. We do hope to see you at an upcoming event on December 7th. It's our Celebrate Northeast event, and that will be a fundraiser for the Todd Klingel Voyager Scholarship Program. And it will be an in-person event at the Solar Arts Building on Tuesday, December 7th. I know exactly, Lisa, from 5 to 6:30. So watch for an invitation for that. And then we do have our Keystone event coming up on December 9th, where we celebrate companies who give back at least 2% of their pre-tax earnings to the nonprofit sector. So that may be of interest to those of you here. And with that, I thank you all for attending this morning. Please remember that today is Give to the Max Day. You can donate to these organizations and many more at www.givemn.org. Have a great day, all. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.